Soul Tribe, we got a pretty busy sky this week with both Saturn and Neptune going retrograde. And also we got Mercury moving into Leo, hopefully sparking inspiration and new courage to face who you want to be. So stay tuned to find out how to work with these energies. But before we jump into that, for those of you who are returning, welcome back, Soul Tribe. I appreciate your subscriptions, your likes, and shares. Your support really is just wonderful, gang. And it keeps us growing. And for those of you who are new, welcome to my channel, Alchemist. Justin here, and I'm happy that your higher self has brought you here. We're in for an amazing journey. Now, one of the things I do on this channel is that I talk about the celestial chit-chat that's going up in the sky. These planets are just seeing how the energies are coming down, how you can work with them, and hopefully give you some practical tools to, just to move forward with a bit more ease during this week. So I will be covering the week of June 27th through the 3rd of July. It's hard to believe it's the 3rd of July. My birthday's around the corner. That's exciting. But actually, speaking of birthdays, if you happen to be watching this, because on our first transit here, it's going to be happening on a Venus day, which is going to be Friday the 28th. So happy birthday, David! Here are a couple of transits for you. At about 10:58 p.m., we're going to have Mercury forming a square with Chiron, and this is going to be happening at 23 degrees and 11 minutes. Mercury is in Cancer, and Chiron is in Aries. Now, when we're talking about Mercury, and let's start with Mercury first, because when Mercury is in Cancer, Mercury has a tougher time in water signs because now we're getting, and I don't want to say it's a tougher time, it's just a different mode of operating than they're used to. They're used to being in that, either that quick analytical absorption curious mind of Gemini, or really operates well in that sort of analytical, practical mind of Virgo. So now when we're getting into water energy like Cancer, things are a bit more emotional. Your speech takes on a little bit more emotion, but also when we're thinking about Cancer, one thing I would think that could possibly come up with this is that we are thinking about the past. We're thinking about possibly our families, possibly our roots here. And that could be a sore spot when we're talking about Chiron, because that can be our wound. When we're thinking about Aries, that's the first sign of the zodiac. So this could be looking back at maybe some of the first, programmings, traumas that may have, that you may feel, because we're talking about Cancer, you may feel like you can't face, but with this square that's coming up, because the squares in astrology, they are when the planets are 90 degrees apart. So when you picture that on a 360 wheel, got all these right angles that are going to be forming, and that'll be, I think I already did that one, whatever, it's fine, you get my point. But it's usually going to be within signs of the same modality. So we're thinking like cardinal signs like Cancer and Aries. We're thinking between fixed signs like Leo and Scorpio, or mutable signs like Sagittarius and Pisces. And this is where you do find areas of tension. These can be considered a harder aspect, but I don't necessarily think that they have to be. When you look at them as harder aspects, you could think, because there's going to be some charts. I'm thinking about my partner's chart. He has quite a few squares in his chart, and I have quite a few oppositions in my chart. But it could either be something that cripples you or something that pushes you, something that can really get you, because some of the stuff that he does is incredible in Virgo. But I like to think of the squares as a call to action. You're noticing this tension, and the energies are like, how are we wanting to go about this? Do we want to just kind of push it back in? Do we not want to deal with it? Is it too much? Or do we want to, maybe Mercury, we're thinking about maybe talk about this possibly. This could be where you're taking that first step, Aries, to go to therapy possibly. Maybe this, when we're thinking about Cancer, maybe there's a chance where maybe there's something going on in the home space possibly. Maybe there's something in like a marriage or in a family. Maybe you're able to bring in some stuff together. Maybe this could be like a family counseling. This could even be where maybe you're thinking about some family, from some mentalities that you've carried from your ancestry. Maybe there's a poverty mindset. Maybe there's alcoholism that runs in the family. Maybe there's this. Maybe there's this. This could be an invitation to maybe break some generational wounds as well, some ancestral codes. Things along those lines, so that you can work on turning them maybe more into gifts, because that's what happens with Chiron. Chiron isn't just facing stuff just to face stuff. you get different tools. You learn to talk with different people. You develop a different sense of communicating when we're thinking with Mercury. And especially in Cancer, this is a different way for communicating, understand the subjective, and to be able to put that and process that objectively. And so, again, this could be a really just healing energy, even if it's not something on a larger scale. This could just be where maybe you've been feeling kind of crappy this week about maybe something that someone said, or maybe something you perceived as something did. And this could just be an opportunity just to clear the air if you've been noticing that, like you can cut the tension with the knife. Because when we're thinking Mercury is how we're perceiving things. And with Cancer, you could just sense stuff. If you're really kind of tuned into that, you could just feel the emotions. And that's one thing too, I would feel like with this square, be mindful of projecting your own problems onto other people. But again, this could be a really great opportunity to understand some things, because later that day at about 9:49 p.m., you have Venus that's going to be forming a sextile with Mars. And this is going to be happening at 14 degrees and 39 minutes. Venus is in Cancer, Mars is in Taurus. Now, when you have that yin and yang energy in this conversation, especially with the sextile, and that's why I kept saying there's this opportunity here, because sextiles are when the planets are 60 degrees apart from one another. So the planets have this mutual understanding with one another here. We're thinking like how you have Cancer and Taurus, or we're thinking about Cancer, Taurus, and Virgo. Those signs will go together because their earth and water mix very well together. Or if we're thinking about Aries, Gemini and Aquarius would go very well with them, because there's that air and fire complement one another. When we're talking about opposites, even the oppositions, there's a complement there, but that's a whole other thing. But the sextile energy does create, it's an easy flowing energy. It comes across as a softer energy, but I feel like you can do a lot with sextiles. A lot of doors can open up with them. And this, again, is a very receptive energy, I feel, with this conversation with Venus and Mars, just because it feels a little calmer, just because Mars technically is in a sign that he's in detriment in, which is a sign that Venus is dignified in. That's the sign that she's at home in Taurus. So I feel like Venus is kind of taking the lead in this sextile. It's allowing yourself to feel, allow yourself to understand and nurture these and form a relationship. Venus is relationships that we're talking about, forming a relationship with these emotions, and how maybe certain emotions or maybe certain people bring up certain emotions, and what that relationship is and where that energy is getting stuck. Because the reason that Mars can be in detriment, or one reason that Mars is in detriment in Taurus, because Mars builds up a lot of energy. And Taurus is a sign that stores very well. They're a very receptive sign. And that's why they have to look to the opposite sign, Scorpio, to make sure that the energy is moving. Because Taurus, like most of the fixed signs, do have that propensity to get stuck, but in different ways. And I feel that this could be to see where you're having energetic blockage, where you're storing things up, and how it may be, where any sort of like frustrations or tensions or anything like that. And then sometimes just even acknowledging that can help the energy disperse some. I was just having a conversation with my partner he was telling me about something, and as I was listening to him, I was feeling this energy like kind of build up in my chest. And it wasn't mine. Like, that is something I recognized like right away. It's like, this isn't something in me. I think this is what he may be feeling. And then even my mind step started to shift. I was like, why are we talking about this? And I feel like he's doing a lot. And then I was like, hey, this is what I'm feeling. And it's like, yeah, that's what I'm feeling. And then I said what I was thinking. He's like, yeah, because that's what I'm telling myself right now. And it's just like, well, you know what? Let's move this then. Not in like, what are you learning from this? Let's form let's establish a different relationship with this thing. And so that's how I feel like I don't feel like it's necessary. The trauma, the thing, whatever this is, never goes away. But I feel like our relationship with it can change. How we feel to carry it into the next generation, even when we're thinking about Cancer. Maybe maybe we're thinking about certain behaviors. Maybe we come from a family where conversation isn't valued. And now we're breaking that. We're having these conversations like, hey, walk me through. Why would just something along those lines. So that's just some examples of how we can work with this. A lot going on for a Venus day, and we're not slowing down here, because next on Saturday, or Saturn day, which I want to make a real kind of emphasis on that since Saturn is associated with Saturdays, which is the 29th of June, we have at about 12:06 p.m., Saturn's going to be stationing retrograde in Pisces at 19 degrees and 25 minutes. And he'll be retrograde until the 15th of November, where he's going to be retrograding back to 12 degrees and 41 minutes of Pisces. Now, I bring up these degrees because when you're pulling up your chart, you want to look at these points, because if you have any planets or points around these degrees, then Saturn is working with you more personally. For example, he's forming a trine with both he'll be forming a trine now going back with my Pluto placement, and then he'll be hitting up my South Node, hitting up my Sun placement, forming all these trines, a lot of movement. And so I'm taking advantage of that. When Saturn says move, I'm like, bet. So, but that's what the retrogrades are about. This is when we're thinking about retrogrades, this is the area where we're revisiting, where we may have missed some opportunities. So especially if you have points along those lines, maybe you got some squares, maybe you've been struggling with something and now all of a sudden you get a solution. Oh my gosh, but that doesn't seem like it's real. There may be that doubt that comes with Pisces. And so there's going to be a need to trust your intuition during the Saturn retrograde. I almost feel like where Saturn usually comes in with delays and things, I feel like it's going to be, or where it can seem like there's these external delays that happen with Saturn, what I feel this one in Pisces could be is more of an internal delay. Saturn's really kind of the ball is always in your court, but now it's now you can't blame me for it, because I'm meditating, I'm resting. So I've given you the advice I can. I can't tell you anything that I've already told you. So it's just what do you want to do with this? Hey, you remember when I told you this thing, do you want to take this? So this could be something where you could be revisiting maybe a contract that maybe you were thinking about, or maybe you were thinking about a course that you want to take and you want to take that move, something. This is a time to really kind of go within and see where we've, how do I want to put this? I feel like this can be where, again, it's just it's giving me, I keep getting the energy of the ball is in our court. You can really get things moving. Because then, let me talk about this next energy, because this is why I feel this is why I'm thinking and feeling this. Because at about 7:19 p.m. in military time, that's 1919. So I thought that was interesting. But Mercury is going to be forming a sextile with Uranus, which is really dope. And this is going to be happening at 25 degrees and 40 minutes, and Neptune's in Cancer, Uranus is in Taurus. And so this, I feel, can be, again, there's that opportunity that's coming with this sextile. This could be where you just see things from a different standpoint with Uranus, because now Uranus and Mercury, they have a tight relationship, because Uranus is the higher octave of Mercury. This, you could think of this as literally just a download coming in, just a wild idea. And I don't want to say wild, it may seem wild in that moment, but it's you get this idea in the Saturn retrograde. It's okay, this is an idea. Here's a flash of what you're capable of. You're seeing this future, and it's just okay, so how do we ground that? This is an opportunity to really see what that feels like, and then how are we, I'm not sure, it's just how does that land with you? How does that, Or I guess, a better question, I think, would be with this, with kind of the Uranus-Mercury sextile, is this an opportunity coupled with that Saturn retrograde? Because again, Pisces, this brings an awareness to something here. There's something bigger that's going on. And it's just have the things that you've been starting, the things that you've been, I almost feel kind of rooted yourself to, almost been emotionally attached to. Do they really reflect your values? And if not, this can be a time to course correct. This can be a time, whether this be like maybe we've noticed that our family isn't quite, maybe they're holding us back. Maybe this mindset isn't working anymore. Or maybe we've been, because again with Cancer, maybe there's been a lot of we've just been in a very reactive place, and maybe this is like an opportunity, like, hey, we got to ground this, like how things have been going, we got to get things in order. Excuse me, get things in order here. So, and I really do feel like this could be just a really great opportunity just for like some really cool ideas to come in. Something where I'd pay attention to, just thinking with Mercury and Cancer, pay attention to maybe what's certain, like, I'm not sure, things that evoke feelings. I'm getting music, for example, like something could come on to like a song could come on that could spark this idea, or you might hear something on the radio, or I'm not quite sure what that is. This is more of a feeling than something. So I would say, again, with Cancer, we're tuning into that intuition, and Uranus is a very intuitive energy. So I just feel like this, yeah, I'll leave that there. So just something to think about with that energy. And over these next few months, there could be we can get a lot of movement with this. Or this could just be with Pisces, where you could potentially just kind of stay stuck, with this. So it's just like you can have this idea and maybe get so lost up in the dream that you're not sure how to bring it down, and we're just kind of stuck in, or maybe we feel frustrated that we can't ground this thing, and so there's this escapist tendencies. And that's something too, I feel like, kind of what Saturn is bringing up, is I feel like there's going to be a more kind of invitation to see how things maybe slow down your energies here. Like, I feel like it's because Pisces is a very sensitive sign, and when things influence their energies, I feel like there's just going to be awareness of what really kind of slows maybe even that idea process, that creative flow down. So that's something I would even invite to as well, especially, now we're going to fast forward a few days. On Mars Day, Tuesday, the 2nd of July, now we're into July now, or July. Yeah, oh yeah, July. I was like, ooh. Neptune is going to be stationing retrograde at about 3:41 a.m. and this is going to should be stationing retrograde at 29 degrees and 55 minutes of Pisces. At the last, she'll be retrograde until the 7th of December, where she'll retrograde back to 27 degrees and 7 minutes of Pisces. This is a more spiritual one when we're talking with Neptune. This is really tuning, because this has been a very wonderful, a very rare experience for us to be involved in, this time that Neptune has been in Pisces, because she takes about 180 something years, I think. Maybe might be a little less than that, give or take a few, few decades. But she takes a long time. She takes longer than today's average lifespan to appreciate. So this Neptune in Pisces has really been a very special time to be in, and I feel like with her having retrograded at this last degree, because I was looking to see, the next time she'll go into Pisces one more time. And then this will be it. Then the energies completely shift. And I do think it's going to be a big shift, because I find it almost auspicious that Saturn and Neptune are going retrograde around the same time, because they're getting ready to form this conjunction again, and it's going to be happening at the very beginning degree of Aries. And so that's even something signifying this is a brand new beginning. There's a lot of symbolism that's going on with this buildup, and I do feel that when you tune into that, I'm even just getting chills I'm just in my back, my spine, just even thinking about it. When you tune into what's going on, things are changing collectively. We're getting to this place where it's, sure, you can't ignore it, like I spent, a little over 10 years I had no idea what was going on in unless I heard about it. I wasn't in on social media or anything along those lines. So it's like unless you really like live off the grid and have no contact with anybody, it's you. But even you can see it in the environment, you can see it in nature, you can see it in the seasons. I mean, it's just like there's so much that is changing, the energy's moving. And so I feel that Neptune really wants us to get in tune with that and understand that we as energetic beings, and I feel like it really kind of ties in, we are in this human experience, and this is not something, and I don't say this, I don't want to say this like it's punitive or like it's like you need to blah blah blah, but we have a responsibility here, when we're with this relationship with our earth and with each other, and I feel there's a lot going on in the world. And I mean, it's again, there's just a lot I feel like to think about with this Neptune retrograde. What are we doing? How can we bring more compassion, just more understanding, a bit more empathy, not pity, but more empathy, more being able to I just feel that this is while we're at this last degrees of Neptune in Pisces for this little bit, you don't have to, no one has it figured out, but if you're on that quest to understand yourself, I feel like that's a great way to work with this Neptune energy, while we're wrapping this up here. Just, just like having that establishment with your, who do you pray to? Who do you, in times of when you feel like, what do you look towards? Who's your God, universe, source, angel? Like what is that connection? Like, how do you connect with those outer, and I feel this retrograde. Again, these energies I feel like are really going to give us some time to sit with this stuff. Like there are going to be some things that are coming that I think are, of course, that I don't feel like just because they're going retrograde that the energies are going to necessarily stop being quiet. There's still there, we got some pretty interesting transits coming up here. But I do feel like with everything that's going to be happening, there's going to be a need to go within and have that connection with that, again, that source self, that higher self. And I feel like this maybe this next energy is a step for that. And you know what, I would say honestly, over these next couple, like between that Saturn day and Mars day, and just in general over these next few months, to try to get a bit more rest, to make sure that we're not, try not to spread ourselves too soon, to honor yourself energetically when you're feeling burnt out, to take a break, when you're noticing when you're overly stimulated, the energies that are coming in with you, getting into any sort of like energetic practices, to just cleanse your energies, meditation, maybe a sound bath, maybe just some quiet time with a book, or maybe just with your family, something, a way to, again, just get into that oneness, get into that, dip into that sense of self. But also at 4:53 a.m., we have Mercury that's going to be forming a trine with this Neptune retrograde. So it's like right after she goes retrograde, Neptune is going to get in touch. And the trines are, and Mercury's going to be at 29 degrees, that 55 minutes of Cancer when this is happening. And the trines are where the planets are 120 degrees apart. You can think about it as is where the elements all form a relationship. So this would be between water signs, or trines would have between water signs, or fire signs, or air signs, earth signs. And it's like they may have different modalities, but they understand each other. The broader picture, the water part, they understand one another. We operate emotionally. I can work with that. I can work with that. And so, and the trines, they indicate this energy of flow. The energy gets moving. And that's where I feel, Mercury, I feel, is getting a lot of downloads from the outer planets. With, first they started with Chiron, which is the bridge to the outer planets. And oh my gosh, that's actually really fascinating. Mercury's going to be, wow. So Mercury is like really bringing a lot into our awareness right now, excuse me, because again, with Chiron, you can think about it in when we're thinking about our solar system. Chiron is that right in between. Its orbit is between Saturn and Uranus. And Saturn is the last planet that you can see with the naked eye before we get to those out of bounds. And so we started with Chiron, feeling some type of way, some old things being brought up. But then Mercury's bringing some. Then we started with Uranus. We've done some healing. We've got some ideas. We're connecting with Source. And now we're talking with Neptune. And I feel like things are really starting to get into your flow. This could be where you start to do this work. You could just start to notice some things shift. Maybe you're starting to get more inspirations, I even feel, with this trine. This could be. Again, this is something that you'll be feeling with this trine with Neptune and Mercury. It may not make sense in that moment, but I feel that once Mercury maybe moves from this Cancer into Leo, which that's going to be happening at about 5:50. We got a busy day on Mars Day, a lot of energy, which is appropriate for a Mars Day. Oh, wow. Yeah, we got a lot of energy because Mercury is going to be entering into Leo, like I said, at 5:50 a.m. And when you think about that, I like how this could translate, because when you're working down the process of the zodiac, Cancer is that time where you're in the home, you're developing this sense of imagination, you're connected with Source, you feel safe to create, to dream, to imagine. And then when you get into Leo, that's where the energy really expresses itself. Where it's just like, oh my gosh, I have all this to give. I feel so much. I want everyone to see it. I want everyone to bask in this imagination, to see me for who I am. This is who I understand myself as. This is what I have to offer. And I feel like that Mercury in Leo could come across as inspired. This could be. I've been getting this word here. I've been looking at some people's solar return charts and things, and I got a lot of people in my, I got a couple friends who've got some. We are all June and July babies, so summer babies. So, but I've been getting this energy of this renaissance that's kind of going on here. And that's what I feel with Mercury in Leo. This can be the courage to, maybe you get this download, you feel this thing to like, you know what, I'm tired of hiding behind, maybe how I could see this Mercury in Leo could be like, let's say you wanted to be a dancer, but maybe your family doesn't approve, why I'm not sure. Maybe because they don't think it brings in money. But maybe you want to be a dancer and maybe your family doesn't approve, maybe your partner doesn't approve, but this could be where you're like, you know what, I'm going to have the courage and do it anyway. I'm going to not necessarily show them, I'm going to show me, that I can do this. And no one else, that I'm doing this because this brings me joy. Because that can be the shadow side of Leo, to do things to get the love of others, as opposed to doing things because they love it, and that takes the joy out of it, that leaves them unfulfilled. That makes for a very sad Leo. And so I feel that this Mercury in Leo can be where you may speak your thoughts with more courage, maybe even not to someone else, but maybe just to yourself. Maybe you're like, maybe at the Saturn retrograde, you're like, I'm tired of telling myself I can't do this. You know what? Yes, I can. Yes, I can do whatever it is that you're setting. And that's interesting. I pull some cards every day when I get into, when I start just the day, like what are the intentions with my energy. And I got the strength card here, actually, Leo, the strength card. And so, that Leo energy is strong. There's strength when you embody your true light. And I find that this is interesting when this is happening, because a little bit later, you have the sun is at 11:26 a.m. The sun is going to be forming a square with the North Node, which is going to be at 11 degrees 21 minutes, the sun in Cancer and the North Node in Aries. Now, the sun is that sense of who I am. And in Cancer, it's just like you're getting a feeling for who I am. You're getting back. When the sun is in Cancer, that's the sign right before the sun gets into his home sign of Leo. So now he's at the tail end. This is his Pisces season. He's in Cancer, where he's just like, man, I got to get back to who I am. I've been in all this energy. I was kicking it in Sag season. I really got to learn myself in Scorpio season. I built something in Capricorn season. I did it in Aries, whatever. And now we're just like, we're in the home space now. And it's just like, what do I want to do with all that? The North Node, because the North Node is our destiny. It's like, it's a very important point in the chart. You can look at it as uncharted territory where your soul is aiming to next. The the land of no return, or I don't want to say of no return, but just again, the uncharted territories. And I feel like this Mercury entering Leo could inspire something in you that maybe you're not sure. You feel this, that Sun in Cancer, but we're not sure how to go about it. This North Node in Aries, or maybe we're just like, am I sure? Should I do this? And I feel like that North Node in Aries is like, yeah, especially if you feel that, like, absolutely go for that thing. Trust that you will figure this out. And how I love how this energy is going to end on this day, because then we got one more thing. Because at about 6:41 p.m., Venus is going to be forming a trine with that Saturn retrograde. At about 19 degrees 25 minutes, Venus in Cancer, Saturn in Pisces. Now, I like when, just like with Mars and Venus, I like conversations with Venus and Saturn, just because they both have homes in air and air and earth signs. Saturn being associated with, he's the traditional rulers of Aquarius and Capricorn. Now Uranus is now they share with Aquarius. And then Venus is Libra and Taurus. So it's like they understand, they are naturally have a harmonious conversation, Venus in Saturn. They get each other, like in when it comes to socializing. And I feel like when it comes to what we're building, what we're worth, there's this easy flow that and especially I feel with this Venus, I feel like if we can hold that feeling, you could understand, like this dream, like maybe that you've been repressed, maybe you've been wanting to go out and be an actor, maybe you're wanting to go out and maybe you want to go out and be an accountant, whatever this is. It's like, if you've not been living, being your true self, shining your light, I feel that this aspect here can help you open up some new opportunities, really kind of. This could be, for example, maybe you talk about this, maybe an idea with someone. Oh, I'll give you an example. I'm working on building my stuff right now, getting my business in order. And I had, my partner was asking me about a trip that was coming up. And he's like, should I take this? What do you think? And I like kind of cast the chart. I'm like, absolutely you should. Everything was like really kind of supportive of that. And in that support, that Venus in Cancer, you talk with someone, you're supporting their dream, that comes back, and I didn't do that because I expected something to come back, but then he ended up making some friends, and then they ended up connecting with me, and I may actually be going on a live with someone here soon from like LinkedIn. So that's what this could potentially bring here, something that, you feel that with Venus, you take that leap, you form this new relationship with your dreams, and just like something can start flowing here. But I feel like you have to, it's like there's this changing this relationship with the dream first, really kind of feeling and believing that you're deserving of this, that you can actually do whatever this is that you're wanting to set off to do. So, and I feel that North Node, or maybe whatever it is you're setting off to do, or whomever you're setting off to be, maybe you just like going back to that Sun square North Node, it's just like maybe you don't feel like you're in your element anymore. Like this is like just something isn't working. And you just, again, you talk about your job with someone, you just happen to be, you just happen to maybe go to a bar, you're just talking with someone like, yeah, man, I wanted to get into this. I got this whole book that I'm kind of working on. And then maybe someone's like, oh, well, what's your book about? And it's like, oh, how interesting. I actually know someone who's in publishing and blah, 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 blah. So you never know. So I just feel like this is a time where, just this day, with just how jam-packed this day is, I feel this is a time to understand who you are. Do you feel in alignment? And when you do, watch how, and it won't be like something like where it'll be like bam, everything's gonna come at once, but just I feel like it's like watch how things start to unlock. Because what I feel can happen, in the last transit we're going to talk about here is going to be on Mercury Day, which is Wednesday, the 3rd of July, and it actually has to deal with Mercury, because at about a little shortly after midnight, at about 12:27 a.m., Mercury is going to be forming an opposition with Pluto. Mercury is going to be, and this will be at 1 degree 20 minutes. Mercury is going to be in Leo, and Pluto is retrograde in Aquarius. Now, oppositions are when the planets are on opposite planes of one another. So you can think about, Taurus in, or Taurus. Well, Taurus in Scorpio would be opposites, Leo in Aquarius. It's usually like they have like modalities, but the elements are in line, but they just like, they need oppositions are, it's like you're trying to bring the best of both worlds together. I like to think of it too as like something is happening outside of you. This is like an external thing. So usually this way, so for example, let's say if you go against against that fear, you go ahead and put yourself out there in the group. Let's say you're wanting to join that acting class, and maybe you go for something, and then you happen to get in the group, and then they're like, oh my gosh, you're amazing, we want to cast you for this part. And so that could be one way where you're faced with the fear of that Pluto retrograde to put yourself out there in Aquarius. But then when you do that, you do your authentic self, that Mercury and Leo share your creative thoughts, then who knows what that could show up. But on the flip side, if we were to suppress that, possibly, how I could see this as is maybe people, this could maybe come across as like envy, possibly. Maybe you'll see people coming up on your feeds living your dreams, possibly, or maybe you get caught up or just seeing everybody else living their dreams or something, and maybe you start getting into this place of, kind of like self-doubt. We start to do all this stuff, and then maybe we take this out on other. It could be a whole thing. And so where I feel with this, if you're noticing where you're getting, where you're noticing energies of like envy, possibly, or where you're, comparing yourself with others, I feel like that can be an opportunity with Pluto and Mercury to understand why, to kind of question that a little bit further. What is it? Why do I feel like I can't do that? If anything, the fact that all these people are doing it, this should show that I can do this too. But it may be something where you're like, oh, well, the world doesn't need another musician. I'm like, absolutely it does, because we done heard all the stuff. We're tired of playing the same old jams. I was just telling someone, there's really not a whole lot of music out right now, and I've actually been kind of writing some stuff, so, maybe we're going to change that. But it's like, I just feel like that there's this, when we're looking at Pluto and Mercury, this can be a great energy, when this combination happens, to get down to the undercurrents and the unconscious motivations behind certain mindsets. Do you feel this way because you feel society has put this stuff on you? Do you feel this way because maybe something happened in your childhood that diminished this confidence, possibly? So there's a lot of exploration for growth here, but this could be where maybe if you're not living in your true self, that it could come across to others, possibly kind of bleed into the group. So I would be mindful of that. Or it could even possibly even come across as, hey, and I don't even think it has to be aggressive. It would be like, hey, I thought you were going to be, when was the last time you picked up that guitar? When was the last time you're so funny? Weren't you going to become a comedian or something like that? Whatever happened with that? And so energies like that can come up, and I feel like they're not meant to keep you down. They're just like, I feel like they're reminders of just like, what are you waiting for? What's no time like the present? Put yourself out there, see what happens, go for the thing, tap into the stuff. See, you may have this gift, this Mercury and Leo, you have this gift, this way of thinking. No one can be you like you. And so it's taking that Mercury and Leo. And again, I feel like it's not, when we're putting ourselves out there, maybe, for example, we're writing a book, or we're going to start a YouTube or something like that, or whatever, and we're worried about how we're going to be received. There are going to be some people who rock with you, and there are going to be some people who don't. But we're not worried about the people who don't. We're worried about the people who do. And then you foster that community, and then they're going to keep bringing in more of that community, and then it's a whole beautiful thing. And I think the last one thing I want to mention with this energy is, because this is happening with fixed energy, I feel that there's this thing where keeping open to other people's perspectives, but knowing that just because someone gives you an opinion, that doesn't mean that that's infringing on who you are, or that you have to necessarily take that, or that has to define, or that, they're trying to make that a part of your characters. So I feel like being aware of how you may be listening, and if you're taking things personally, because that's something with Mercury and Leo. I have that natally, and I know there are times where I can get attached to certain thoughts, and it's like, I feel like if someone doesn't think that what I've said is brilliant, then it's just like, oh, well, F. I'm like, then it's like, then there's this down. I've gotten better about that, but it used to be like really bad, where it's just like, oh my God, like, what did I do? Like, do you not, I'm like, anxiety. It's the whole thing. And so, yeah, that's how, just some ways I feel like this energy could potentially come up there. And if you're curious about where this stuff is going through your chart, because it's one thing to talk generally and kind of talk broad like this, but it makes it so much more, astrology is more personable than this. There's this general collective mundane astrology that's happening, but these planets are forming specific aspects with your charts, and how you're responding to them is very different than how I respond to them, than how your partner, your friend, your dog responds to them. And so if this is something where you're wanting to work more intimately with your energies, to get into understand your cycle, and maybe when you're ready to move into, maybe you've been stuck in a certain cycle for a while and you're ready to move on to something, you'd be amazed what you can do with the solar return chart. But come, book. I have a link down in the description box below where you can book a free consulting. I swear I'm more articulate than this, but you can book a free consulting thing with me, but I don't know what I'm trying to say. It's book a call with me. We can work that out when we get there. But it's just to talk about some of the programs that I offer, how I work with the charts, see if that resonates with you. We can get payment plans involved, all sorts of things. But if that's something that's resonated with you, all that description box is down, or all that is down in the description box below. And check out my stuff on. Let's connect. Let's be friends. Let's join me on. I'm getting a little bit more active on Instagram. I'm posting some stuff on LinkedIn now. I'm getting all those things kind of tailored up. So come join me on those platforms, and hopefully I see you there. I hope you've been enjoying. And also, if you want to keep track of the moon, you got Cancer in your placement, whatever that's looking like, either one, come over to my other channel, The Chariot and Friends. I do videos where I release them based off the lunar cycle. So whatever time the moon's coming out, know that when that video comes out, that moon has changed sign and you're in sync with the moon. So it's a whole thing. So something to tune in with, and a reminder to look up at the sky, and to just, astrology is more than just looking at the chart. Remember to feel those energies, bask under that sun in Cancer, or and maybe reasonably, or go out and go look at the moon, or go look at the stars, or all this cool stuff that's happening in the sky. So I think that's all I got for you. Stay mindful out there, seize the day and the night, and raise that vibration through the roof. And I will catch you on the next one. Later.